Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. Back for the occasional, we always have an episode on Saturdays, but this is one of those occasional live stream Saturdays that I'll never guarantee will happen, but I'd love to do them as often as I can. So it's March 19th, 2022. I got that right on the first go round. And this is episode 84 of the Workshop Podcast. And tonight, back by popular demand, we are going to go through another list of one of my top 5 post-apocalyptic films. Tonight, we're going to deal with comedies. You'd think comedies and post-apocalyptic movies don't go together, but I'm going to tell you they do. Before we do, let's go to announcements. So first off, something we're going to try a little different tonight. It's going to be special. We'll see how it goes. But you guys hear me all the time. I am consistently bragging up our Telegram chat group. We have an incredible community over there. I think we're like 65 members deep now. I love just the ongoing chat all the time. And so what we are going to do tonight is, as soon as this live stream ends, maybe 5-10 minutes afterwards, I'm going to start a video chat over in the Telegram group. So anybody who wants to hop on can hop on, and we'll just have a little community roundtable video chat. It won't be recorded anywhere. It'll just be us shooting the shit, talking about, you can brag about what you want, talk about your kids, tell me what you're up to. Doesn't matter at all. Hey, we got Lots Project in here, Little Klondike Outdoors, Rachel Brown, how are you? Carrie Brown, no relation, I don't believe. And Chris Dixon is not 50. So I will drop the link to the Telegram group. If you're not in there, be there or be square. That's pretty lame, Tim. So there's it's coming up, the link to the Telegram group if you want to come by for the video chat. Should be fun. I completely stole that idea from the Liberty Late Night folks. I was over there the other night. We had such a great conversation, and they carried it on over on Float afterwards. It was a lot of fun. Number 2, if you are one of the ones that are still around and on Facebook, I have a Toolman Tim's Workshop Facebook group. I like that group. It's just a small group. I decided to split my all seasons maintenance handyman page because I really wanted to keep the two things separate. So we launched it. And we got 35 or 40 people over there. But if you're on Facebook, I also live stream over there now. So I will drop that link into the description or into the live chat as well. So, and of course, for anybody listening on the audio, the links are always in the description anyhow. But I thought this would be fun to try this, throw these in here and see how it goes. And now number 3, the final announcement for tonight. Sunday night's guest is going to be a special one. So, you guys know that about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, I launched my YouTube channel, which eventually turned into a YouTube channel and podcast on the Living Free in Tennessee podcast, run by Nicole Sauce. And I'm sure everybody in here knows Nicole Sauce. But if you don't, she's a wonderful individual who really gave me a jump start to my content creation. She's going to be my guest tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about, her experience in running events and how they lead to building community and building income. I'm really excited because I've probably mentioned this, but I'm shooting for next summer, so 2023. We're going to have some sort of Western Canada get-together or prairie get-together or whatever, who knows. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited, but I need to learn. So we're going to have her on there tomorrow night, and it's going to be great. So on Saturdays, you know what? While we're talking, I think it's time for a little drink. We'll have a little Maker's Mark with some Pepsi Max, of course. Everybody always laughs at me. You can hear that. There we are. That should be enough for tonight, at least to get started. So on Saturdays, I've been starting a new segment just titled, What Have I Been Up To? So I'll just share a little bit about my week and some of the projects I've been doing. But the big one, I know a lot of the people over in pretty much all across social media have seen. Chris says, I will be there right on. The Bank House. I've been working on a... Brian says, why ruin the makers? Because that's just how I roll. Isn't that an awful thing? Diet Pepsi and bourbon. I know, just an awful thing. So we got the contract to strip out a bank house. So you guys know I do pretty good business with looking after bank repos. And this one had a little bit of mold and water damage in it. And yesterday we stripped all the walls, cleaned it up today. We got to go back on Monday and do the ceiling. But when we stripped all the walls, it turned out that basement was made out of pressure-treated lumber, which I guess is common on the prairies. Not something I ran into on the East Coast at all. So we found some water coming in. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But, it's quick work, but boy, is it ever hard work when you need to haul every single piece of broken drywall up the stairs and out the door. So yeah, hope it's going to pay well. Not hopefully, I know what it's going to pay, and it's going to pay well. So I got the keys to the 12 unit. I told you guys that I took on another contract for property management. I'm really excited about that. It's a beautiful property that's in really good shape, and the tenants don't even wear shoes. They have to take off their outdoor shoes as soon as they come in the door, so they keep it really clean there. It's really nice. Coffee label has been finalized and approved. So the last step for me is to get off my ass and put together the website. I keep telling you guys this stuff so it will motivate me to get it done. But that's all that is left at this point. I'm rather excited. And I don't know about you guys, but the weather has been absolutely friggin' gorgeous up here. We are giving, on Wednesday, it's giving plus 13 Celsius, which in freedom units has got to be, I don't know, somebody can do the conversion for me, but it's unseasonably warm for us. Although tonight, for tomorrow, we're under a snowfall warning, but it looks like it's going to miss us. So there we are. I don't have them here to show off, but I just got some new die-cut Toolman Tim stickers. Hey, tools and tactics. I'm not quite sure what yo dropping. But anyway, A like B, back later. Okay, cool. Nice to see you. I like that. Anyway, so the die cut stickers are awesome. We'll figure out a way to disperse some of them eventually. We're thinking about doing some. Anyway, we'll get into that later. And this week, if you have some time and are looking for some extra podcasts to listen to, I was interviewed on Amy Dingman's podcast a couple weeks ago, and she dropped the episode on St. Paddy's Day, and we talked about how luck was what you make it. It was an awesome episode. I loved the interview. And I was also on Ken Esch's podcast this week, Constructive Liberty, and that was an awesome conversation about entrepreneurship. So if you're looking for some extra shows, pick them up. And Chris says, Snow miss you, and I'll probably pound him. Yeah, it could be. It kind of looks that way. I was kind of worried about you, Mr. Dixon. But you know what? You can have it this time. I've had it all winter up here. So I've been, one final thing, I've been digging out some of my collectibles, stuff that I haven't used in a long time. All that shit's going on eBay, and I'm turning it into silver. I think it's that time. I'm just, I like my silver, and I got so many collectibles I haven't used in years. And I even, one other cool thing, I found an automotive toolbox for the back of my truck. Well, it would have fit in the back of my truck at this empty property. Put it on Facebook Marketplace today, and let's see, 10 minutes, and it sold for $100. So I was very pleased with that. That's how you do it. You bring something home, you put it on the marketplace, and it sells. And, oh, yes. And, oh, my God, I almost forgot about that. Thank you, Brian. We also had the Unloose the Goose, or the Goose After Party, and that was hilarious. We had a great time. It was just a really neat mix of people, and we'll definitely do that again down the road. We had a lot of fun. Okay. And you know what I just realized? I made my list backwards. So the top ones at the top, and should have done it backwards, but that's okay. So before we get started on the list of top post-apocalyptic films, I'd like you guys, if post-apocalyptic comedian films or comedy films, if you have a choice, throw it up in the comments before I start, because I'd love to hear what you guys think is your top pick, or maybe a sleeper hit or something you haven't missed. And you guys, I'm a prepper. I always have been, and I always will be, but I'm also a movie fan, and it's kind of fun to throw these two together. So I hope you enjoy these lists. I've got a couple of honorable mentions first. I actually have 3. And the first one is one that I actually had forgotten to put on my list, and Letty Lou will probably reach through her whatever device she's listening to tomorrow when she listens to this and slap me, because Idiocracy is a great movie. It is a modern biting satire. It's hilarious. It's so stupid, it's hilarious. And it wasn't on my list at all. It's a really good movie. And it's one that I really have only been exposed to over the last 3 or 4 years, because Jack talked about it on the Survival Podcast. So I haven't seen it enough for it to really grab a hold of me yet. So it's not on my top 5 list, but it is an honorable mention. And then the other 2 both come out in 2013. You guys ever hear, the concept of like when A Bug's Life and Ants come out at the same time, or what were the other ones? We had Deep Impact and Armageddon. You know how like 2 movies with similar concepts come out in the same year and they get confused with one another? Well, that was the case with World's End and This Is the End. Both apocalyptic movies, both come out in 2013. Both were comedies. The first one starred Shaun of the Dead, Simon Pegg, if you know him. Okay, so there's a reason that movie isn't on my top 5 list, because as you can imagine, he has a better one that we'll deal with down the road. But yeah, so World's End deals with aliens, and This Is the End deals with a bunch of pretentious Hollywood celebrity types dealing with the end of the world as well. If I had to pick one of my favorites out of those two, it's definitely World's End with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. It's hilarious and it's funny, but it's nowhere near as good as Shaun of the Dead. And as far as This Is the End 2013, it had Seth Rogen and a few. Basically, what it was an excuse for him to get together and make a movie with his friends. It was an okay movie. I forgot about it the second I watched it, and I haven't found Seth Rogen funny since Knocked Up. So I guess there's that. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I have one bonus pick up here. It's kind of a little bit out of context with the whole list. So yeah, this is a top 5 list that ends up having 9 movies on it. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm always one of them that likes to give added value to it. Maybe I'll just have to change the title. But okay, so number 5 out of my top 5 movies are, hang on a minute here. We will share the screen. We'll bring it up. And there you are. Don't Look Up. Now, this is one of those divisive movies. If you guys, it's one of those that either you loved it or you hated it. Either you thought it was seriously it's one of those movies that you either thought was the smartest satire or it was so on the nose that it just literally hit you in the head. It was like getting beat over the head with a club. Some people thought it was intelligent and some people thought it was absolutely stupid. I honestly, I didn't hate the movie. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. It's fair. It's the newest one on my list. The actors, the cast was great. The guy that played the Jeff Bezos knockoff character there, I can't remember his name right now. We'll see if we can find it. I know you're up there. Mark Rylance. He is just awesome. Yeah. It says, "Know your Joe. Don't look up now." Wow. On the nose. Ain't that the truth? Yes. So this is the same guy, the same director, same writer, director, whatever it is, that did the Dick Cheney movie a couple of years ago that was absolute satire. I mean, his are so satirical that they're almost a satire of satire, if that makes sense. Now, Becky and I both watched this just after Christmas. Hey, John Palmer, how are you? We got a crew in here tonight. And also, I know you're Joe. So yes, that is a perfect 3-word description for Don't Look Now, on the nose. But the problem is, and I think the reason that it was so on the nose is because, unfortunately, the general public, how do I put this? They're not very bright anymore. And the only satire that they might get is the type of stuff that is so on the nose that it might give them a nosebleed. Just saying. I mean, the actors are great. Cate Blanchett is one of my absolute favorites. And, I could take Leonardo DiCaprio, love him or hate him, take him or leave him, doesn't matter. It was a weird combination, him and Jennifer Lawrence. But the whole Chicken Little thing where everybody treated them like the boys that cried wolf was kind of interesting. I mean, they literally go to the president and say, there's an asteroid coming to the earth and it's going to destroy the earth. And Meryl Streep is just kind of like this ditzy president that's like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm more worried about the poll numbers and the works. Jonah Hill was friggin' hilarious. I think he was just playing a souped up, slightly more asshole-ish version of himself. He was really funny. He played the son of the president. And then, the movie was really good. If you take it for face value, and it's not going to go down as a classic, but there's not a lot of post-apocalyptic comedies to pick from. But this one really, I enjoyed it. I really did. I don't think it should have been nominated for Film of the Year this year. I think if you look at all the other films it was up against, whether you like the Oscars or don't, it wasn't a great film. It was a fun film that had a really interesting concept. It played with themes of, when it came down to it, there's some things you're never going to be able to do. And there's, family's important. And I really liked the idea, the concept of it broke the people down into a bunch of different groups. It broke people down into, the world's ending. I'm going to I'm going to make money off it, or I'm going to look for pleasure, or I'm going to sit around and panic and do absolutely nothing. And in the end, well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it is what it is. It was just a really interesting kind of head in your sand. There was an Alex Jones kind of character that was calling the entire thing a farce. Yeah, Know Your Joe says, yeah, let's bring that up. Yeah, John Palmer says, I remember now, it was okay. And yes, I would say that as well. Oh my God, I forgot. There's so much in that movie. Yeah. Know Your Joe says, should have been nominated for Best Reality Show. Unfortunately, also true. And I forgot about Ariana Grande in it. That was so funny. She was, again, the worst part or the best part about this movie was that it seemed like most of the actors were just playing slightly hyper-realistic portrayals of themselves. So like Ariana Grande played this totally self-absorbed singer, which I'm assuming is probably exactly how she is in real life. Oh, don't hate me for that, but no, I don't know. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. I know my daughters love her, but it was just really funny. And that Timothy Chalamet or whatever, he was hilarious as like this kind of anarchist punk evangelical Christian mix of anyway, he seems to be in every movie lately, but he was a really good character in it. Overall, if nothing else, what I liked about it was the character study of everybody was flawed. Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence were the main characters. Jennifer Lawrence had, they both kind of crippling anxiety at different times. And Leonardo, without getting into it too much, was an absolute dirtbag for the most part. And probably maybe the best characters in the movie were Cate Blanchett and what was her Tyler Perry. They did kind of a daytime early morning talk show where all they cared about was which celebrity went down the red carpet with their fly unzipped, and they didn't care a bit that the world was going to end. So it was really funny. The ending seriously jumped the shark, and to say that for an end of the world comedy movie. And I don't mean the ending, but then there was an after ending scenes that just got way out there. So if you like completely, this one is probably I don't know, maybe not as far out. It's the least grounded of any of them, yet at the same time, it feels a bit grounded. So if you like it, just check it out. It's honestly, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I liked what it did. And it was okay. And it, like I said, it's up for movie of the year, but that's a little too much if you ask me. Okay, so from there, let's go on to number 4. What do we got next? We have, hang on here, we'll bring it back up. I'm trying to do this all at once. The Cabin in the Woods. So if you haven't seen this movie, first off, I'm a huge horror fan. You guys know that. So this would be the closest to traditional horror in my list. It's gory. It's legitimately frightening, I guess. It's got kind of I don't know exactly what you want to call it, but it just feels so John Palmer. Yeah. It's so over the top in its goriness. And the thing is, the movie plays itself straight for about the first half hour to 45 minutes. And what makes this movie so good is the absolute balls to the wall kind of 180-degree twist that it does as it goes on. And again, I know this is a 2011 movie, so it's 11 years old, but I really will stay away from spoilers, I guess. I don't want to ruin any of these movies in case you're like, geez, I haven't seen this. I want to go back and watch it. But so what can I say about The Cabin in the Woods? Well, it was written by Josh Whedon. If you guys know him, he got famous for writing the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And Know Your Joe says, Cabin in the Woods. He says, no thanks, have to sleep at night, LOL. Yes, and it is. So again, the thing about comedy, when comedy and post-apocalyptic movies come together, they almost have to be satire because that's just the nature of it. So pretty much everything on this list is satire in one way or another. And The Cabin in the Woods would be very similar to Scream in that it plays with all the tropes that are in traditional horror movies and it satirizes them. Yes. Yeah, it says was used in tons of 2021 memes. Absolutely. Hey, have a good night, Chris. It was nice to have you. Always miss him when he drops out. So, yes, let's talk about it a little bit. Like I said, Josh Whedon, also famous for the first couple of Avengers movies. And then he kind of, anyway, you know how it goes. Sometimes they get in themselves in some trouble. So it features a really young Chris Hemsworth. So actually, it came out the same year that he first played Thor, which was kind of cool. But it was filmed 2 years before this. So what ended up happening was they filmed it in 2010, and then the studio's like, hey, you know what? We want to convert this to 3D. So they ended up sitting on it for a year, never converted it to 3D. The studio that was going to put it out ended up bankrupt or in financial trouble. So it ended up sitting on the shelf for 2 full years. So they ended up having the same year Thor, or Chris Hemsworth, was in a hard R-rated gory horror movie and a Marvel Disney Thor adaptation, which was kind of cool. And probably the best scene in the whole movie is when he, let's just say, attempts a jump over a cavern with a motorcycle. And that's all I'll say about that. The script was written in 3 days, which blows me away because it's, I don't know, maybe the most intelligent one on this list. It's definitely original. All of these are original, but this one stands on its own. When you start seeing the inner workings of what's going on, you're like, holy shit, that's crazy. But yeah, so there was over 100 original monsters made for this movie. A lot of stuff that was never seen in any other movies. They talked about doing a sequel, but they never did. That's okay too. And yeah, it's, like I said, it's a traditional horror movie with a really crazy post-apocalyptic bent. And I won't give away the twists and turns at the end, but if you haven't seen this, do yourself a favor, take a minute and watch it. Well, take probably 90 or 100 minutes and watch it because you will not be disappointed. It's a great, I love it. It's fun. I remember when Becky and I first watched it, the best way is to go into it blind, to not know anything about anything, not know anything about the movie, and you will be really, it'll pay off for you. Let's put it that way. All right. So number 3, let's bring this one up next here for you. There we are, Zombieland. Now, for some people, this might have made their top post-apocalyptic comedy. I'm not sure. I love the movie, like absolutely love it. And I think maybe what tainted it slightly was the sequel. The sequel was good, but it didn't need a sequel. The cast in this movie is perfect, I would say, as darn close to perfect as you can get. All 4 actors that you see on the cover here, this picture, have been nominated for or won an Academy Award. That's saying something. Woody Harrelson and Abigail Breslin, I believe that's how you pronounce it, the little girl there, they were both nominated before this was made, and the other 2 after. Emma Stone won one. Yes, and Zombieland was awesome. So there's so much to talk about this movie. It's friggin' hilarious. It was, between this and Lost in Translation, was probably responsible for the late career revitalization of Bill Murray. I friggin' loved him anyway, but this, honestly, I'd have to say this movie probably turned him into an icon. Man, maybe someday for, I don't know, some really crazy episode, we'll have to do our favorite Bill Murray movies. I don't know how we'll tie that into this, but if we want to, we can do it, can't we? But yeah, so the Bill Murray scenes, I mean, he just chews the scenery in that, and it's awesome. And the rules are just incredible. You know, like double tap, always double tap. Make sure if you hit the one in the chest first, make sure you hit it in the head next. Always check the back seat. Never use public restrooms. Always keep up on your cardio. It's just an incredible movie. It's hilarious. It's violent. It plays on all the zombie tropes just like you want. It kind of satires, the rich culture and Hollywood a little bit. But it was just so cool when it came out. Nothing had really been made about it before. The amusement park scenes, they're kind of, I guess they're kind of cliche now that I've seen it, 7 or 8 times at least at this point. But it was so good. Yeah, Rachel. Yes, this is great. So Rachel Brown says Bill Murray's redemption for Garfield. So there's a funny story about that. And I can't remember their names, but the brothers that did, Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou, and all of those. Yes, Beware a Clown. So anyway, Bill Murray was under the impression that the director of Garfield was this, high-end director-brother duo. And it turned out that it was not. And he was maybe tricked or deceived, but I mean, Bill Murray doesn't even have an agent. Basically, you either have to go to his house or leave a script summary on his voicemail, and he'll decide whether he wants to or not. Hey, Ian, Claire, and Pippinized, we got some more new faces in here. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, so this movie's great. Bill, and yes, Garfield. I mean, honestly, even when I was a kid and I heard Garfield's voice, I thought Bill Murray. So he was perfect for it, but the movies were dog shit. So there is that. But yes, Zombieland was great. The something else, kind of a neat little piece of trivia. The term Zombieland, at least in movies, was first in Natural Born Killers, which also featured Woody Harrelson. And they were talking about the television audience and how it had turned into a Zombieland. So they either coined that phrase or used it later on. But this is, it's pretty close to a perfect comedy film. And when you add in the zombies to go with it, it's just, anything in my top three could be, you know what? My number 2 pick might be divisive. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So when we get to number 2, you might think, oh boy, I don't know. And you may not have seen number 2 before, and that's okay too. But we'll get to that. But yeah, honestly, whenever I think of this movie, I'm a huge Woody Harrelson fan and a huge Bill Murray fan. And of course, it's a comedy. It has zombies. It has lots of violence and the rules. And also, if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole sometime, first off, this was originally supposed to be a TV show. So it was a script for a pilot, and that's where the zombie kills of the week came in. The show was supposed to have a zombie kill of the week every single week. But it turned out they bumped it up, turned it to an R rating, and turned it into a movie. And then a few years later, Amazon optioned it and decided they wanted to make a pilot episode out of it. It was okay, but it never went anywhere after that. So if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, I'm sure that show is still available for free out on the internet. Check it out and go from there. So what do we have next? Okay, this is number 2. You guys might, I don't know. Let's see. Who has seen this movie? If you have, give me a thumbs up in the comments or say yes or whatever. Now, and if you haven't, that's okay too. And if you see the cast, you might think, oh my God, has Tim lost his mind? Brendan Fraser and Alicia Silverstone, neither of which are great actors or actresses, or at least that is what a lot of people would say. And they're probably not wrong. Oh, wow. This sounds cool. Let's bring this up. Brian says, I got to drink a bunch of beers with Woody Harrelson in a dive bar in Northeast Minneapolis about 20 years ago. That would have been an incredible conversation to have been a fly on the wall for. I would have loved that. And just curious, Brian, was he as chill as he seems? Because he really does seem like he's pretty chill. Little Klondike has seen Blast from the Past. Know Your Joe says it's awesome. And Hunter says, morning, y'all. So either he just got up or he lives. I can't remember where Hunter lives, but yes. Yeah. So Martinson family says that bunker is awesome. Aquaponics and nuke protected. So I don't know. This movie makes me smile, and there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. But I do have another list on my phone that I've been working on. Down the road, we're going to do a top 5 bunker film movies that are in or around bunkers. Should be kind of fun. So this movie probably has the most sentimental value to me of any of them. It was the summer of 2000. I just finished up my freshman year of college, and I super stoned and very chill. Yeah, I bet that's Woody Harrelson. Yeah, summer of 2000, I took a job working at a summer camp in northern New Brunswick where the mosquitoes could literally pick you up and carry you off. We were working there at a camp for kids whose parents were in jail, and we would be 2 weeks on with kids and then 2 weeks off to do maintenance. And during our 2 weeks off, we'd work all day, and then we'd have all evening in the middle of nowhere to do absolutely nothing. And there was a little tiny hole-in-the-wall Texas River convenience store. And this was back, like I said, in 2000. So they still had a pretty robust movie rental section. This movie was 2 years old at the time. It fell through the cracks somehow. I picked it up on a whim. I took it back, and I think I rented it every weekend that summer that I was up there. I just loved the movie. Everything about it. I mean, it plays like an Adam Sandler movie, but the cast is just so perfect. From Adam and Eve, that's Brendan Fraser and Alicia Silverstone, to The Mum and Dad, which is Sissy Spacek, and of course, one of my crazy favorites, Christopher Walken, who just plays the same character that he always plays, but he just does it so damn well. So if you guys don't know, yes, Little Klondike says Christopher Walken was great in this, and he was. He's just awesome. If you haven't seen this movie, it's worth seeing. It takes place kind of in the middle of, Carrie Brown says it's one he forgot about, worth a revisit. It is. And this is the one I've seen the most of all the movies on this list. So it takes place during the Cuban Missile Crisis, or right around that time, and Christopher Walken is building an incredible, and I mean incredible, 35-year nuclear shelter underneath his garden shed. And it's just awesome. Nobody knows it's there. So a plane, well, they hear that there is a bomb incoming. So they go in, they lock the door, and then they hear an explosion. So he sets the time lock that will not let them out for 35 years. Turns out it was just a plane that crashed, but I'm not ruining the movie because this all happens in the first 5 minutes. But Christopher Walken has a complete self-contained 35-year shelter down there. It's incredible. They have aquaponics with fish. The mom, for whatever reason, likes warm Dr. Pepper, and maybe that's a thing. I don't know. If any of you guys like hot Dr. Pepper, great. I don't know. But she would heat it up in a saucepan and drink it that way. One of the best parts, of course, is Brendan Fraser was quite young when he grew up, and he spent, basically the first 35 years of his life underground. And the father trying to explain to him what baseball was, he could never get it because baseball is such an abstract concept if you've never seen it. And when he finally gets to the surface and sees baseball, he's like, I get it. He runs because he must. And it just cracks me up because he's so damn simple. Yes. Oh, so warm. So Know Your Joe says warm DP used to be a thing. So we're going to go with Dr. Pepper. I'm sure that's what he meant there, and I won't make a joke at all. But yeah, apparently it was. I like, Dr. Pepper. I used to mix it with dark Bacardi in high school. And yeah, so what do we see here? Joey Slotnick was funny as well. Is that the guy? Now, I might be wrong about that. I could probably look it up, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Was he the guy that ran the bar that was above them? I'm thinking it was, because he was hilarious. And then Pipe and I says, I was busting somebody's chops about not seeing the movie PCU, but here I admit I've not seen Blast from the Past. That's okay. It's great. Like you will. Yeah, do yourself a favor, look it up and find it. I got so many hidden gems. This is really a good one. But I will admit, though, again, it is absolutely. Rachel Brown's got me laughing here now. It really, yeah. So watch it with an open mind. Again, it was made in 1998, so it hasn't aged very well. Like it looks like a cheesy 90s movie. Their acting isn't great. Yes, Carrie Brown, leave my elevator alone. I love that you know that line. That makes me happy. But the movie's great. It has, what's his name from Kids in the Hall as well. He's in it. He plays a supporting actor, Dave something. I can't remember what his name was. But yeah, so there's just so much to love about it. And beyond all of that, there's also a huge religious satire bent to this too. So it's not just an end of the world satire, but it also plays on so many religious ideas and worship. And then when he finds himself an adult bookstore, there's just so many things that are funny. He has, like, at the time, I think it was like Kodak stock and IBM stock that he takes up and sells for millions of dollars. And Little Klondike, are you taking a look here? Yeah. So, Souls, is that Why Did I Get Married? Is that an end of the world movie that we're talking about? Because I haven't seen that. John Palmer says he stopped drinking soda 10 years ago. And Little Klondike has been sneaking a peek at my notes. We'll deal with this one in just a minute. But yeah, so Blast from the Past, he needs to go up, and they send him with a whole list of supplies that he needs to go, commandeer. And so he just casually pulls out a Mickey Mantle rookie card and sells it for, I don't know, 50. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was hoping I missed a movie. Yes, thanks for the joke. You're absolutely right. Into the world movies. I understand. So yeah, Blast from the Past, give it a chance. It's just awesome. And it's the only PG-13 movie on this list. Everything else is an R-rated because, I don't know, end of the world, comedy, it just feels like it needs to be an R rating. But this movie doesn't miss anything by being a PG-13 movie because it's kind of a, it plays on just being a straight edge, clean kind of movie. It's really good. Just take a minute, watch it with an open mind. Like I said, I look back on it. What are we talking? 22 years ago. So it has a soft spot in my heart, but it's awesome. Yeah. Just take a minute and watch it. Planet of the Apes. Yes. Love Planet of the Apes. Which one? I remember watching that for the first time in college, way late on a Friday night, because it was the only night that the lounge was open all night. And I fell asleep and woke up for the ending of it. And it's a good movie. So now that was 5 through 2. So we've started with Don't Look Up as 5. We had Cabin in the Woods as 4. Zombieland 3. Blast from the Past 2. And now this is where I always slide in a bonus. So this is not number 1, but it is a really good film. And it's the only black and white film on this list. And it's the oldest film on this list. And Little Klondike. I think you know which one it is. And this is also the only movie that I didn't pick a cover for when I brought it up, because this image is so iconic with the guy riding the atomic bomb down. Escape from LA is a great one. And you could, Escape from New York's really good too. We might have to go back and visit that one. But yeah, this one, I love this movie. It's been a lot of years and I've only ever seen it maybe twice. So that's why it wasn't higher. It wasn't like a full, there it is. I got that story coming up. I think Little Klondike is a Stanley Kubrick fan, or at least a Dr. Strangelove fan. So I can't really figure out. I think the title is supposed to be a bit hilarious or satirical as well. But the full title of the movie is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. And if you've ever seen The Shining, Rachel, because Rachel said she's heard of it but never saw it. If you've ever seen The Shining or Space Odyssey 2000 or Clockwork Orange or Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick was a master of his craft. And my favorite movie of his is The Shining, even though Stephen King hates it. But that's a story for another day. But he's just really good at what he does. And Dr. Strangelove is hilarious. And I'm going to go back in my memory here. But from what I understand, they basically set off a nuclear war simply because there was a crazy general in the war room that thought I think he thought the Russians were adding fluoride to the water or something like that. It's kind of funny how it's something that came full circle. But yes, The Shining's great. It's a classic. And the sequel to The Shining, which Souls just brought up here, is oh my God, I just had Dr. Sleep, and it's great. The book is awesome, and the movie's really good too. The guy who directed that movie is the one that did House on Haunted Hill, or Hill House, Haunting of Hill House. That's it. And man, I'm having a rough night tonight, but he just did that recent one too, where it takes place on an island with a priest who dies. It's probably the best show of last year. But anyway, great director. Clockwork Orange, and then The Shining. Strangelove is a third, Brian says. I like Clockwork Orange, but I love The Shining. And of course, I guess it's because I'm a Stephen King fan too. But yes, Clockwork Orange is great. It kind of stands alone in its own time. And Stanley Kubrick, holy crap, did he ever go the full gamut of movies? I mean, you go from Clockwork Orange to The Shining, which is traditional horror, to the only comedy he did was Dr. Strangelove, to an epic sci-fi, what else can you call it? It's an epic sci-fi story, Space Odyssey 2000. And anyway, all great movies. But yeah, Strangelove you need to see. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out. And yeah, so the guy that is sitting on there was actually a professional bull rider, and his name was Slim Pickens, who was an actual rodeo star. And what was funny, apparently behind the scenes when they were filming this, everybody thought that he was an incredible method actor, because you know how some of the big actors will stay in character the entire time after they're done filming. Well, they couldn't figure him out. James Earl Jones, it was his very first movie, and he thought this guy was playing his character all the time. It turned out, no, he was just literally that's who he was. That's how he talked. It's how he carried himself. And yeah, so he was a legit rodeo star that they got to come in there. And I thought it was really great. And The Matrix could make the list. Maybe we could do like a sci-fi version. That would be a lot of fun. It would be. I'd like that a lot. So the crazy thing about this is this movie was based on a book, like a lot of what Stanley Kubrick did. And the original book was called Red Alert, and it was a straight written drama. So it was supposed to be a serious. And as he started adapting the script, the stuff that was in there that the politicians did that was supposed to be serious to Stanley Kubrick just came off across as absolutely asinine and stupid. Hilarious, like almost every other thing that politicians do. And so he started finding the satire behind it and he turned it into a comedy. And the movie was supposed to end in a pie fight, but they wouldn't let him because they thought nobody would take it serious. And it even premiered. So they had the very first test screening on the day that Kennedy was shot. And so they changed a line in the movie. It said, was something along the lines of, with that kind of money, you could have a fun time in Dallas. But of course, because Kennedy just got shot, they they overdubbed Vegas instead of Dallas. And apparently you can kind of notice it in the movie, but they just wanted, where the nation was dealing with stuff and whatever, Oh, yes. And Brian says, do you do Apocalypse Now? No, that was Francis Ford Coppola, but that was a good film too. A really good film. We could do his sometime too. So yeah, it was, I love this movie. I went back. I'm a sucker for black and white movies. I remember my kids when they were little, they asked me, Dad, at what time did they, or basically they asked, was the world in black and white years ago? And I thought, oh, that's really funny. Logical mention, The Divide. We'll have to check that out. Let's bring that up and bring it into the notes so we don't lose it. I'll have to remember that to go back and check because I always love having good recommendations. And yes, they did a pie fight in Blazing Saddles, and that was hilarious too. So that was my bonus pick. And really, you could pick any Stanley Kubrick movie and be happy with it. But yeah, this is a really good one. I enjoyed it. See if we can get back into it. So anybody want to guess? I will ramble on for just a minute or so. Is there any that hasn't been on the list yet that you think might be my number one? Maybe, should I give you a hint? But I kind of mentioned it already. Probably other than Blast from the Past would be the one that I have watched the most. Both the director and the actor in this film have gone on to bigger and much better, or maybe not better, but bigger and better things for sure. Yes, don't forget about WALL-E. Maybe we'll have to do animated. Oh my God, that would be a fun one. Animated post-apocalyptic movies. That would be good. There's this one. I already talked about one before. I can't think of it right now, but it was about an old man and an old woman who had to build a bomb shelter. And it's really bleak, but that would be a lot of fun. Well, you guys, Idiocracy. So Idiocracy, I don't wish it. It was a honorable mention. It didn't quite make my cut, and not because it's not a great movie, but simply because I just haven't watched it enough for it to become one of my top 5. That's all. It's a great film. It's almost a documentary on 2022 and how people talk and react and act, and it's kind of sad, but yes. So number 1, here we go. And when you see it, you're going to be like, oh my God, I know what it is. How about this? Anybody like Shaun of the Dead? That to me, probably it is just a perfect blend of zombie, horror, and comedy. And plus it's a British film, and I have a soft spot in my heart for so many British films, but it was just so damn good. Right from the opening, where, it's funny, if you go back and rewatch Dawn of the Dead and then you watch Shaun of the Dead, the two openings are almost the same. It's kind of a character going through life and the world just falls apart quickly. But in Dawn of the Dead, she has to react, and she deals with it right away. Whereas in Shaun of the Dead, they're absolutely, completely oblivious. He's walking around yawning, leaving change on the counter at the convenience store, and it's all falling to shit around him, and it's so funny. And Rachel Brown, she says she likes Hot Fuzz better. I like Hot Fuzz. I like World's End. They're both pretty good. They're parts 2 and 3 of the unofficial Cornetto trilogy, I guess they call it. I kind of look at Shaun of the okay, Nick Frost is the heavier guy right there, and then Simon Pegg is the main actor, and they kind of remind me of Chris Farley and David Spade, except Chris Farley was the lead. In this way, it's reversed. But there, says that's Brian says that's because you guys never kicked out the Brits. Yes, that is also true. We just sat around and waited for him to get tired of us and say, okay, you guys can be your own country now. But yes, I do love a lot of British films. Well, 28 Days Later is also an incredible zombie film, but that's a story for another day. So this movie, I don't know. Yeah, Simon Pegg is just incredible. He's awesome. When they pull out the vinyl records and they start throwing them at the zombies and they're trying to pick through their favorites so they don't lose them, it's just, I crack up every single time. And then the soundtrack, of course, is great. The the director, he's gone on, what has he directed? Baby Driver. So if you've seen Baby Driver, he wrote he wrote Ant-Man, and then Disney kicked him out because they didn't like his vision and decided to rewrite the movie. And then he just wrote, it's Edgar Wright is the director, and he just did Last Night in Soho, and that was an incredible film. I love that. Becky and I both really enjoyed it. It's kind of a dark, I don't even know what else you can call it, but yeah, it was just a really good film. And he has the best soundtracks. He's just like James Gunn. They pick out the best songs. So Pipe and I says, gotta love Shaun of the Dead. This will all blow over. If that's not a perfect summation of that movie, that's just what they think. We'll just go to the Winchester, grab a pint, and wait for it all to blow over. Because that is kind of I think, 99.9% of the population is going to just act like that. They're, the sun's come up every day, so it's going to come up tomorrow. We're just, normalcy biased, right? And that's exactly what these guys were. They were just always looking for that, what do you want to call it? Just the daily grind. They're like, yeah, whatever. It's happened before. It'll happen again, even though it really hasn't. And then when they're in the Winchester, that's the pub if you haven't seen it before. And I believe it's Queen that plays. What is the name of that song? I wrote it down here somewhere and I lost it. But that is so funny when they are beating the zombies to death to the tune of the song. It just cracks you up. I love it. And they don't really beat them to death because they're kind of wimps. But everything about the movie, it's a traditional hero story. And yeah, Pipe and I says, I'll just get some extra toilet paper. Yeah, so, okay. Rachel, that's exactly, she says the Winchester, the gun can't work. I figured there's no way that gun would work either because, well, they're in England and they're not allowed to have guns, right? But that's another story. But just everything about this movie, how Simon Pegg is just this tiny little Weasley of a man that can't make a decision and hasn't really grown up. And yes, I Am Legend and So Know Your Joe, I've never seen Warm Bodies, and I've heard great things about that. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I also went back and watched if Ken Cornelius gets to listen to this at some point, he's a great friend that is a big supporter of this community. I talked to him on MeWe quite a bit. He recommended a whole bunch of other movies, and Panic in Year Zero is from the 60s. It's black and white, and it is a great film. I don't know if I could do this, but I may do like a short episode or a whole episode just on my thoughts about that movie. And if you haven't seen it, it's great. Yeah, it's really good. Anyway, so yeah, Shaun of the Dead. I love the transformation of Simon Pegg of, he's, 30 some years old or 30 years old, working at a furniture store, just no point to his life whatsoever, can't commit to his woman, can't remember anything, doesn't take anything serious. And all of a sudden he has to step up, grow a set of balls, and fight off the zombie horde. And there's so many nods to the classic George A. Romero movies in this, like when they're in the Winchester and they see all the zombie hands on the walls, and it's just so good. I love it. And again, it follows that same kind of, I don't want to say what do they call that? The Final Girl or whatever, but it doesn't quite follow that, but it does follow the traditional kind of horror hero stories. And I love it. It's fun. It came out at the time. So between this one, Dawn of the Dead, and 28 Days Later, those are the three films that really reinvigorated the zombie genre. They're probably I would say, somewhat responsible for getting The Walking Dead turned into a TV show and for all the other movies. I guess I Am Legend came after that. So many And it's hard to call I Am Legend a zombie film, but it's kind of a zombie film. But the whole world has gone gaga over zombies over the last, 15, 20 years. And those three films all stand apart. And the first two, of course, are classic horror movies. One's a remake, one's original. And you know something's hit the big time when a comedy's made about it or satire's made about it, because, oh, yeah, Shaun of the Dead is so good. Yeah, Simon and Edgar were, yes, that's right. So they got George A. Romero, the director of Night of the Living Dead. They brought him in and showed him an early release of this. They gave him a private watch party. He loved the movie so much that he gave Simon Pegg, the main actor, and Edgar Wright, the director, bit parts as a zombie in Land of the Dead, a movie that I don't like at all, but I definitely love Night of the Living Dead. And if you guys have never heard that story, they basically, a clerical error caused that film to not be, is it copyrighted? So basically, as soon as it was released, it became in the public domain. So that's why it can be spoofed, and footage, whenever people are watching like an old classic horror movie, it's almost always that, because it was instantly added to the public domain, and he lost out a ton of money because of that. And that's why there's a couple different sequels to it, so much to it. But yeah, anyway, they got George A. Romero to watch it. He loved it, and he's like, hey, do you guys want a bit part in Land of the Dead? And sure enough, they showed up and they were zombies. I thought that was kind of cool. And then, of course, Simon Pegg's gone on to, he's been in so much. Recurring role in the new Star Trek movies and a bunch more. And like I said, the director there, Edgar Wright, he's known as I don't know if you'd call him a master at this point, but his editing and use of music is just, yeah, it's so good. And Baby Driver was great. Last Night in Soho was great. But up until this point, Shaun of the Dead is still my favorite. Hot Fuzz was good. World's End was good. But the problem with sequels is it's hard to top the original in my mind. I don't know. Here's one. Let's throw one out there. I'm sure everybody's going to say The Godfather. But in any trilogy or any series of movies, which one would you say is not the best? The first one isn't the best one. And let me throw it there. Let's say Back to the Future. I would say Back to the Future 2 is my favorite. I know the first one was the original one, but there was always just something. I loved how the 80s always looked ahead to the future and had a certain idea. Know Your Joe says World War Z. I love that movie. I think they butchered it, and it could have turned out better. So Know Your Joe says Alien. So Aliens 2 is better than Aliens 1. I can agree with that. Been a long time since I've seen the Alien films. Die Hard. Oh, John, you are stepping on some toes there. Anyone else agree with John Palmer that Die Hard 2 is better than Die Hard 1? I like Die Hard 2, but I honestly think Die Hard 2 is just kind of a rehash of Die Hard 1. I love the snow aspect of it, but it really feels like a rehash. Man, that's a tough one. The third is the best of the Die Hards. You know what? I was just going to say that, John. I love Die Hard with a Vengeance, and I think that's because Samuel L. Jackson's in it as well. And it's not just because that's the very first movie I ever pirated with 2 VCRs, because it was. Soon after, it was the Street Fighter movie, and after that, I lost track. But I loved it. I really hope John needs to lay off the sauce. See, now, boy, we really started a fight here now. I do love Die Hard with a Vengeance. I would have to say, if I picked, so I really only view the top 3 Die Hard movies as Die Hard movies. The rest are cash grabs because for whatever reason, Bruce Willis has decided not to make good movies anymore. But I would go Die Hard 1, Die Hard 3, and then Die Hard 2. That would be mine. And you could say Die Hard's a Christmas movie if you want. I just think it's an action film that takes place at Christmas, but and oh my God, Pipe-and-Eyed, I think we're going to get in a fight here because I think he's saying that 28 Weeks Later is better than 28 Days Later. Oh man, I don't know. So let's put it this way. If you're judging the films based on their first 10 minutes, then maybe, because 28 Weeks Later has an insane opening kind of layout. The first 10 minutes are some of the best you've seen. But then it's like, yeah, it's okay. But I love 28 Days Later. Danny Boyle's an incredible director. I think what's crazy about it is you're never going to get a high definition version of that movie because it was filmed on digital video. And so all you get is that grainy digital video look. and they had such a small budget that I just love that they can only do so much. One of the best scenes in the movie doesn't even happen. It's just him telling the story about when they're at the train station and the rage fire starts going through the crowd, and it just kind of, he gets up on a vending machine, and all of that is never even shown, but you feel it and you remember it. And there's just something so dark and gritty, and it was so original that it's hard to top that. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so I do like 28 weeks later, and we're getting close to being able to do a 28 years later, or 28 months later would have been a long time ago. But yeah. Hey, Loco, how are you? We're just talking about post-apocalyptic comedy films tonight, and I guess we got on a tangent here. Maybe we can continue the conversation over on Telegram if anybody wants to bring their favorite ones. Brian says, maybe you need to start, John. No worries, you can be sober and wrong. Nah, just an original fan. We're fighting about Die Hard. Sorry I started the fight on Die Hard here, guys, but yeah, I do love the first one. It's pretty funny because people in the generation, like the kids in the generation behind me, there's so much in Die Hard that if you watched it for the first time now, you would think, wow, that is so cliche. But the thing is, everything that started in the original Die Hard was original with Die Hard. It's become cliche because it's been spoofed 1,000 times over the last, 30 years. And I remember it was one of the first R-rated movies I saw because Mom and Dad rented it, and I snuck out in the hallway and I watched it from the hallway. They knew I was there, but I enjoyed it. It was so funny. That was a great film. I loved it. Oh, Loco, sorry. Yeah, you just saw the banner. We were a little late getting going here. But yeah, so, okay, next, if you guys have any suggestions for other post-apocalyptic movie books, I could even do comic books. I took a phase for about 5 years where I just dove into everything post-apocalyptic into comics. It was so great. John says I make you feel old. I'm sorry, man. I turned 41 in I don't know, a few days anyway. So sorry about that if I do. But there's just, these movies, it's crazy how, you look like 1998 was 24 years ago. That doesn't seem like it should have been, right? And so Blast from the Past is damn near 25 years old. It shouldn't have been that way. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, Saturday Night Live with TMT. Here, what do we got here? Yes, Toolman Tim. Yes, Saturday. I like that. Saturday Night Live. First R-rated movie that Brian saw was Born on the 4th of July. That's a really good one. And okay, maybe anyway. Little Klondike says The Happening by M. Night Shyamalan. So am I the only one that really kind of enjoys that film? I'm still a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan, even if he's screwed the pooch too many times. But my favorite Shyamalan film is, oh crap. It's kind of a toss up, but the Alien one, why is my brain not working tonight? But that's by far my favorite. I would say, okay, when he came out, I was in college and I didn't get to see any of the other. Oh, poor. Yes. Okay. So The Happening is hilarious. That's what I like about it. It's so funny. Mark Wahlberg's acting in it is just, it's horrible. Like there's just no getting around it. And I think it was done on purpose. But yeah, Shyamalan, any of his first 3 movies are great. Unbreakable is underappreciated, or at least it was. I think it's become better since, but Signs is by far, in my opinion, his best film. It has a great cast with Mel Gibson. He's just perfect in the story of him losing his mother. And it was just, yes, the lawnmower scene is great because remember how they hyped it up? The Happening was going to be M. Night Shyamalan's turn to an R-rated horror movie. And it came out and you're like, what the hell is that? So, okay. Here's the thing about The Sixth Sense. I never saw it until about a year later. And by that point, the twist had been ruined for me about 1,000 times. And so I really couldn't enjoy it nearly as much as I wanted to. It is what it is. I tell you what, if you guys want to, we can keep talking movies, but I am right up on an hour. I think that's good for this episode. Anyone who is interested, come by the Telegram group. Give me about 5 minutes and I'm going to set up a live video chat where we can all chat about movies or whatever the hell we want to. Anybody that's interested, come on by. We will. It'll be a lot of fun. And let's see. So where are we heading this week? I guess the big one. The kid in The Sixth Sense absolutely creeps me out as well. Just the kid in general, not his character, but the actual actor, I guess would be what we'd say. But so really the only announcement that I want to push tonight is, have a good night, Carrie Brown. Thanks for dropping in, my friend. Nicole Sauce is going to be on the show tomorrow night. We're going to talk about running events, building community, making money, and it's just going to be a nice time chatting with an old friend. I always enjoy it. So Tools and Tactics made it back, and now we're just ending up. Sorry, Tools, but we are going to jump over to Telegram for a little bit. And we'll chat over there. I think it'll be fun. We're going to try it anyway, see if we can make it work. So anyway, guys, give me about 5 minutes. If you're listening to this on the recording, I'm sorry. I guess that's just what happens because what we do in Telegram won't be recorded. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I always appreciate it. This is fun. Maybe we'll have to do these movie chats every 2 weeks instead of every month because they seem to be a huge hit. We had a great chat tonight, and I really appreciate all the awesome comments. So thank you, guys, and thanks for dropping by and hanging out with me. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.